Chapter 16. Enrique's school had an anti-bullying policy, which was taken very seriously by all the staff and almost all the pupils. It involved older kids monitoring the younger ones, watching and listening for any signs or signals of bullying. But this system could only work if the person being bullied gave those signs or made those signals. Enrique was determined to do neither. His pride wouldn't let him admit to anyone that he was being bullied again, and he was making certain that none of the other kids at school suspected what was happening. Part of the problem was that he hadn't made a particular friend or group of friends at the school. He was so wrapped up in his soccer that making friends had taken a back seat while he tried to establish himself at the academy. So at school, Enrique was regarded as a bit of a loner, and Jake Hodge, Jordan Cole, and Craig Cameron were making the most of that situation. It was lunchtime and Enrique had slipped away from school to buy himself a sandwich at a small corner shop. There was nothing wrong with that. Pupils were allowed out at lunchtime if they didn't want the school lunch. And the shop was in a quiet part of town, a fair walk away from school, and from his 3 tormentors. Enrique was feeling a little bit better than he had for a while. Jake and his friends had mostly ignored him during the morning. Even during the morning break when they'd spotted him alone, they just walked on by without even bothering to throw in a couple of insults. As he walked from the shop carrying a sandwich in a paper bag, Enrique was wondering if maybe they'd grown tired of taunting him. But they hadn't. As Enrique delved into the bag to take out his sandwich, he heard footsteps running toward him from behind. Before he could turn around, he felt the bag snatched from his hand. It was Jake Hodge, and he wasn't alone. Jordan Cole and Craig Cameron were with him. Jake turned back and laughed as he reached into the bag and took out half the sandwich.
"Look, lads, it's tuna and cucumber on whole grain bread. That's very healthy and nutritious."
He stared at Enrique.
"Is this what makes you big and strong, Enrique?"
Enrique said nothing.
"He's not looking too strong to me," Jordan laughed. "Ha ha, more like a bit of a wimp."
"Aye," said Craig, joining in on the banter.
"Maybe we should try some of that tuna. Give us a bite, Jake lad."
Enrique watched as Jake ripped half the sandwich down the middle and handed one piece to Jordan and the other to Craig. They both bit into the bread and chewed very deliberately as they stared at Enrique.
"Delicious,"
said Jordan through a mouthful of tuna.
"Oh, aye,"
Craig laughed.
"That's special. I'll ask the old lady to get some in."
Jake lifted the other half of the sandwich from the bag and took a single small bite.
"No, I don't like it. Actually, I think it's disgusting."
He dropped the remaining part of the sandwich onto the pavement and then grinned at Enrique.
"Oh, sorry. Did you want some of that?"
Still smiling, he bent down and picked up the sandwich. Jake moved closer to Enrique, holding the sandwich at arm's length.
"You love this stuff, don't you? Here, take a bite."
Enrique edged backwards, shaking his head. The only way they'd get him to eat the sandwich now was by forcing him. The trouble was that all 3 boys had stopped smiling and laughing. It looked as though they might very well do exactly that.
"You 3? You make me sick," said Enrique bravely. "Not one of you would do this if you were on your own." "That's 'cause there's safety in numbers, see?" said Jordan, grimming. "That's an old English saying."
Quickly, Enrique reached into a jacket pocket and pulled out a can of soda he'd also bought in the shop. He drew his arm back and glared at Jake, silently challenging him to come closer. Jake just grinned and pulled the sandwich away from Enrique's face.
"There's another old English saying you should know. If you can't beat 'em, join 'em."
"I don't know what you mean," said Enrique, lowering his arm a little. Jake threw the bread and tuna down into the gutter.
"Come with us. We'll show you what it means."
End of chapter 16.